There are all sorts of weird things happening in our world right now. A lot of them have to do with time, like why clocks don't work anymore or why time seems to be speeding up. But none of those are quite as strange as what happened on July when our planet completed its rotation on its axis in less than 24 hours for the first time ever recorded. The day was 1.51 milliseconds shorter than usual. So how does one measure such a tiny change, and why should you care? I'll tell you. First, a slight correction. Technically, it wasn't the shortest day ever, but rather the fastest rotation of the Earth since the beginning of the satellite era. Satellites like the one that makes your GPS work, which is able to track the Earth's rotation down to a millionth of a second. That's why we know about the speed up, but why should you care? Well, imagine you're at a party. You chat with some friends and suddenly realize you've been talking for half an hour. You check your phone. Nope, no new messages. Time seemed to fly. Then you think back over the last few years and realize you have been doing that a lot lately. Days seem to go by faster than they used to. There isn't more stuff to do or anything. It's just that time seems to be speeding up. Now, it turns out that's not really true. The days aren't getting shorter, but Earth's rotation is actually slowing down. But here is the thing. Even though the Earth is ever so slightly speeding up or slowing down all the time due to all kinds of natural phenomena, most of us don't notice because those changes are fractions of a second long. In fact, the Earth's average rotation rate is already 1.6 milliseconds longer than it was in 2020. But because it is so small, we don't feel it. But every once in a while there is a day where everything lines up just right and the Earth rotates a bit faster or slower than usual. And those days are actually more common than you might think. Sometimes a day can be as much as 10 milliseconds shorter than average, and sometimes it can be 10 milliseconds longer. But even though these days are super common, we usually don't notice them, again, because they're fractions of a second long. But if it's a really extreme case, scientists will actually send out a signal to all the devices that use GPS to add a leap second either at the end of the day or the beginning of the next one. A leap second is kind of like a leap year, but for time instead of calendar days. If Earth rotates faster than normal, we add a leap second at the end of the day so that the clocks stay synchronized with the Earth's rotation. On average, we add a leap second about once a year. This keeps the time on our clocks roughly synchronized with the Earth's rotation. Otherwise, accumulated differences would eventually make our clocks completely out of sync with the solar day. But occasionally, rarely, we need to add 2 leap seconds in a row. That happens when the Earth rotates faster than usual for 2 days in a row. That hasn't happened yet, but if it did, scientists would add a second to the end of the second, giving us 86,401 seconds in a day. And of course, you need to set your watch for this extra second, unless you want to be late for everything for the rest of your life. As for the record-breaking day in July, well, it turned out that way because the Earth was buffeted by a rare weather event called a planetary wave. Planetary waves are huge atmospheric disturbances that form in the stratosphere and lower mesosphere and then propagate around the globe. They come in a range of sizes and can affect weather patterns in different ways, and scientists believe this particular planetary wave contributed to the record-breaking day by transferring angular momentum from Earth's atmosphere to its core. Angular momentum is basically a fancy way of saying spin. Everything in the universe has angular momentum: planets, stars, black holes, you, me, even your toothbrush. When something gives off angular momentum, it slows down. So thanks to this planetary wave, Earth gave off a little bit of its rotational spin, causing it to speed up for a day. It's a weird, complicated world we live in, but I am glad there are people who take the time to understand it so that we don't have to, like the people who made this video. Thanks, guys.